I am delighted to introduce to you today my old student and friend, Derek Louw. He has been practicing with me forever, since something like 2003 or 2004. So, Derek, it's been a pleasure to know you for all this time, to count you as a friend, and also I would love to ask you a little bit about your personal experiences. So, if you don't mind, please share with us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to Qigong.
Okay. Well, I had a pretty varied background. At the time I got interested in Qigong, I had gone through a series of auto accidents, which resulted in some pretty significant injuries to my back and some of my extremities, and had gone through tons of treatment, chiropractic, physical therapy. Everything still wasn't right. So I was searching for some ways to hit the next level in recovery, specifically looking for something, a softer movement art. And that's when I met you. And I thought, well, what you're doing sounds really interesting. So let's jump in and see what happens. And it's been a fabulous journey. Very grateful for the opportunity to take it. And it has had a dramatic impact in my life, both in recovery of physical ailments and in many other areas as the study of Qigong has progressed through my life.
Well, to look a little bit more into your background, you had studied a variety of martial arts, and as far as I understand, you've done some judo and some other practices, plus also studied some meditation practices, and you are a very spiritual person. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I started at a very young age with judo. As I grew up, I expanded and did a little bit of karate, actually a lot of bit of karate and some kung fu. And so that was my background. And then I got into more of my professional career and developed that and started a family and kind of took a break from that aspect. Always stayed spiritually aware. I've always been a student of spirit and religions. So I enjoyed that aspect. And I think it was interesting. I think the trip to Qigong just kind of rolled that focus back over into those areas of my life, which was very helpful at that time and still through today. I have a lot of experience since then also in some social institutions. I'm a master mason and a Shriner, which deals with more of the societal side of spirituality. I'm a member of the Rotary, so participate in programs with the Rotary to help people around the world. And I think all those things fit really well with the practice of Qigong.
Yeah, as I always put it, the more people you help manifest and live their dreams, the more people will help you manifest and live your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Something that inspires and informs our efforts to help other people. And of course, I know that you have helped lots of people in a variety of ways. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you help people these days?
Well, I am a credit consultant, so I help people that have issues with their credit scores and/or credit in businesses to establish themselves and grow and prosper. So I think a mutual friend of ours, Roger Yankee, some years back introduced me to the concept of green qi, which really kind of folded the world of money and the world of energy arts together for me. And it was very interesting watching all the applications of energy arts and how that translates into the financial world around us and helping people to navigate it with those tools.
Fantastic. And of course, one of the things that I also know about you is that you experienced personal healing. I remember how you were basically having a hard time moving when we first met. Can you share with us a little bit about your personal transformation?
Oh, absolutely. Life was pretty hard for a while. Got in some pretty pretty serious car accidents. I was told at one point in time I'd probably be riding in a wheelchair pretty shortly. And I didn't like that answer very much. So I sought out some other solutions and had a lot of help from many places, and the big one was yourself. I think when I met, I had been through all the chiropractic and stuff. I was back to being able to walk. I was wearing a pretty significant lift, over a ½ inch in one of my shoes because my hips were rotated and I was diagnosed as having a short leg. um, which led to all kinds of other problems in my gait and my being able to walk properly. So the transition of the mental capacity to realize how we distribute our weight through our body and how our natural stance happens was hugely transformative to me, because that then highlighted the fact that I had a lot of holding patterns, which are when I had all these injuries, I would adapt my mobility to protect the injured parts of my body, so I would not necessarily move in a natural fashion. And my brain became attached to that new way of moving to protect my body because it worked for so long. And as I evolved and didn't need to do that so much, I also had to retrain my mind to not hold on to those holding patterns, that I could now move in a healthier and more natural fashion. And that was the real lights on moment for me, when you make that connection, because that really enables you to heal and change and transform in a groundbreaking way. So
transformation happens from inside. So the external physical changes occur because of the internal transformation.
Yes, exactly. Once I was able to convince my mind that it didn't need to do these things anymore, then my body can return to a more natural position, which means it was no longer irritating other parts of the body that may or may not have needed protection, and allowed me to relax and be more natural and healthy.
Who wouldn't want that?
Well, I certainly enjoy it.
Right on. Well, this is something that obviously affected your quality of life. And I also remember working with your son, Jake. He started practicing at the same time as you did. And for quite a number of years, he practiced and progressed quite a well. And I would imagine that the experience of father and son practicing together was somewhat helpful also in helping him grow up into a more responsible and healthier young man.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, as well as helping me grow as a father. I think the awareness that comes, and for me, I think the entry door was physical, because I had that need at that point in my life for the physical mobility. But as it transforms into the awareness of your thought patterns and how that influences the physical, then it translates into so many areas of your life. When we start recognizing energy centers and attitudes and how to be aware of those in yourself first and then later in others. And, working with somebody that's close to you, like your son, I think really helps bring that to light faster and makes it very useful.
Right. Well, and let me ask you this. What's your favorite practice or aspect of many different sides that Qigong has to it?
That's a tough question, Louw. What day is it? I think is the answer to that one, because there's so many favorites there. It depends on where you are in life at that moment. But I'll try to pick one for you, just to make this easier. And I think ultimately it boils down to the awareness of energy frequencies and how they affect your mind and body and others' minds and body. If I had to pick one, because that's really transformative when you attain that level in the study, that you can recognize that. It's, tells you clearly what's going on in your own body, and it's almost like ESP when you're dealing with other people, because you become aware of things that they don't know you can see.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And also makes you more capable of making intelligent decisions, because your decision making now is based on energy awareness rather than just preconceived ideas of what's right and what's wrong, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Not only the awareness of the energy as it exists, but how is that energy going to react to different things? Do you synchronize with that energy and move with them, or do you provide a different direction or awareness? There's so many things you can do there, but you have to have that underlying awareness of what it is and where you are to start with before you can make any intelligent decisions about how to move forward.
Right. And once you start making intelligent decisions, then you also keep on checking whether or not those are actually intelligent, the decision.
Hmm.
And you check by simply sensing whether or not you're in the flow. And
Hmm.
so decisions that help you be more in the flow, usually by and large, are the ones that are more beneficial for most of us. Sometimes we make decisions that are not the most beneficial, but still the right decisions because maybe we need to experience some lesson. And this lesson is going to actually facilitate our further enlightenment. But in majority of cases, finding what is more aligned with our energy is going to allow us to be more in the flow. And that's basically the name of the game for most Qigong practitioners.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the marks of the study of Qigong that stands out to me as I look through that transition, when we started, thankfully it was not in a COVID period, and there was a lot of physical movement associated with that practice. And I learned to associate that physical movement with the energy that goes along with that movement, both in our core and extremities. And it made it a very tactile learning experience on that feedback loop of feel the energy, test the energy, feel the energy, test the energy, because feeling is easy to understand. And that helped to create that connection between feeling the energy with your body and other observations of the energy. And then as that evolved to become more sophisticated to from touch to visual to literally feeling the flow of energy. And that was an amazing way to learn that very powerful experience.
Right. And as another really cool aspect of our practice, something that you excel at, is the practice of push hands. Something that you basically use this energy awareness in order to be able to flow with another person instead of clashing with them or colliding or headbutting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very tactile practice, especially if you can match with somebody that also has the same level of awareness or more. And yeah, that's a very awesome learning tool. The feedback loop is very instant.
Indeed. Well, unfortunately, at the age of pandemics that we live in at the moment, it's not as easy to do push hands with people. So we have to resort to some other practices. Do you have any practices that you currently do more or less regularly or would care to share with any of our viewers?
Well, absolutely. I think just some of the basic stretching exercises are invaluable, and the reason why is as you move through the practices, you realize that it's not just stretching or lengthening your muscles that you're doing, but you're also cultivating a muscle memory of a pattern of movement. And as you progress through the practice, all those muscle memories integrate into the different things that you do, like push hands or body work or anything. It's all movement. And so, by being able to stretch and lengthen your muscles, you maintain your health in your body and circulation and flexibility, which keeps you safe. And then, you progress from there. There's many movement meditations that I've learned with you over the years. And those are a wonderful way to recenter yourself after a stressful day at the office and grinding numbers and doing what you do. Just becoming in touch with your body and the flow of energy through our bodies and around us is a wonderful experience. And I think you can get a lot of rest in a short period of time by doing that.
Well, you mentioned stretching and lengthening. And as you know, I always kind of juxtapose those two terms. Stretching is what happens when you pull the muscle beyond the edge of the comfort zone, as opposed to lengthening that happens naturally when we facilitate the relaxation of the muscle. So maybe that would be a cool thing to actually demonstrate to our viewers so that they get a little bit of an idea how you can become more flexible without actually stretching the muscle beyond the edge of the comfort zone.
Okay, well, how am I doing that at a desk here?
I don't know. Yeah, neck, for example. Like if there is any kink in the neck,
Okay.
how would you?
I think that, like you say, the terms are kind of interchangeable. I often use stretching when I first talk to somebody I'm practicing with, because that's a terminology that a lot of people connect with of lengthening a muscle. And I think the difference is if you're stretching, maybe you're going to, stretch your head sideways. You're going to grab it and pull it as hard as you can until you feel some degree of pain, and then you grit your teeth and wait for things to try to relax, which often results in more tension as opposed to just going right to the edge of that comfort zone. And then gently rolling and exploring the edge of that comfort zone and allowing it to slowly expand. So
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. Rather than forcing it and trying to pull the muscle apart, just letting it flow and go out to as long as it wants to go, and it just starts to feel a little uncomfortable. And then tickling it a little bit and letting that comfort zone to slowly expand.
Well, I think it would be pertinent to also mention that before we even go into the exploration of where the edge of the comfort zone resides, we often shorten the muscle first. So, for example, if I'm working on the right side of my neck, instead of pulling the head to the left and stretching the right side of the neck, I would actually begin by shortening the right side first. So this muscle actually becomes less agitated. It doesn't really feel threatened that it would send alarm to the central nervous system. Alarm, I'm being pulled, maybe it will get torn or get a sprain.
Right.
Instead, we actually quiet down any type of signals that the muscle sends to the central nervous system, which in terms of communication then elicits a response from central nervous system that's basically stops sending signals of contraction. And that's why the muscle relaxes. So if I want to release the tension on the right side, I actually will shorten the right side first, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I frequently will use the trigger points in the muscle to help relax the muscle before you lengthen it. That's very helpful. Nice.
So touching it with the fingers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I've been sitting at a desk a bit today. I can feel that.
An interesting thing that whether you are applying pressure with the fingertips or you're applying passive shortening approach, when do we know that the muscle begins to lengthen?
Very often you have a change in breathing pattern. You can, if your fingers are on it, you can feel the palpations, but you see a change in the breathing pattern. A big sigh is frequently a sign of release.
Exactly. Yeah, and you may even start yawning because you become so relaxed. People often think that yawning is a sign of being tired, but it's actually a sign of being relaxed. And so you become relaxed, and often we don't know what to do with such a relaxed body. And so the mind basically thinks, well, maybe it's time to snooze. That's why we associate it with tiredness.
Yep.
And so once the muscle stops being so tense because it doesn't receive so many signals of contraction from central nervous system, then obviously it would be a good time to let it lengthen and just explore how far that lengthening process will go, only going to the edge of the comfort zone and then kind of exploring the edge like we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And that's actually also an exercise in practicing mindfulness, right? Mindfulness of the edge of the comfort zone. Mindfulness is a big buzzword these days, but how do we actually physically apply it? Well, that would be a nice way to apply it right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then when you learn the principle, you practice that in other areas of your life by exploring the comfort zone in professional practice or relationships or whatever, and finding out where things work.
Exactly. Yeah. And most of our dreams and aspirations tend to reside outside of comfort zones. That's why so many people tend to push themselves over the edge, because they want to jump over the edge of the comfort zone to get to that place of the dream, a destination that they hope to achieve. And of course, they end up hurting because they're outside the comfort zone. And
Yep.
so that's basically why they retreat back to the comfort zone to recuperate, to recharge, regroup, and then perhaps take another leap. That's what people do when they stretch. They often have a dream of being more flexible, and the dream is outside of the comfort zone. And so they stretch hoping to reach that destination. And of course, that hurts, creates the stretch reflex, and they take some time to recuperate before they can try it again, thinking, oh, that's going to work better. I didn't stretch enough. Maybe I need to stretch more. Well, doing the same thing and expecting different results, that's a sign of insanity, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we learn how to practice in the same manner, in such a way that we work with the body rather than struggling against it. Very cool. How about your professional life? I know that you are a self-employed professional and you work with people in financial realm. Does working with people in financial realm become different as a result of applying any of the principles of energy awareness or Qigong coaching?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. I think my clients, they approach problems with different levels of intent and different techniques. Some are very aggressive, some are extremely passive, and everywhere in between. And being able to recognize who they are and how they approach things and be able to meet them on that level has been extremely helpful over the years. For instance, if you have somebody that's real aggressive and says, well, I want to change this now, maybe you want to say, well, if we go in there and be real mean, what kind of results are we going to expect here? Not good. There's somebody on the other end of this transaction. If you act aggressive, they're probably going to act aggressive, and you create a conflict relationship rather than a solution relationship. So how can we transfer that into a way that will bring people together to create a good resolution that's positive to everybody, as opposed to a conflict? And then there's other people that are very passive, and you have to recognize that this is a very passive person and work to give them empowerment, knowledge and empowerment, and entice them into a course of action that will have a positive outcome for them. To empower them to say, oh, I don't have to be passive. If I do this, I'm going to get something good. And that's a whole different approach than you would take with an aggressive person.
Yeah, and when people have their problems that they encounter that they hope to solve either passively or proactively, would it be fair to say that these problems could also be perceived differently? The way that we learn how to basically develop a new filter of perception that allows us to view problems as learning opportunities and learn whatever we can so we don't have to repeat these problems again, but at the same time, not even viewing them as problems anymore, but
Yes.
them as important lessons that we become grateful for, so we're no longer suffering from having this experience.
Oh, that's huge in my world. I deal with a lot of credit. The credit world is not fair. And that's the first lesson that we learn is it's not fair. This is not set up for consumers. This is set up for the benefit of large institutions. And
Yeah.
knowledge is power. So if you understand how they operate and work your behavior within the grounds of those rules, then you're empowered to make a difference in the system and make it more fair to yourself. So that's a transition in attitude for somebody from, oh my gosh, this is not fair, I'm mad, to, oh my gosh, that's not fair, I see what I need to do.
Right on. Yeah, and I guess the whole idea of fairness is also something that is associated with certain preconceived ideas of what is to be considered fair, of what we deserve. And I think working with people in financial world has a lot to do with understanding what they deserve.
It's so interesting that you say that, Mama. I have found myself recently taking the approach with several clients of, it's not fair. You're right. Now we can get stuck in being stuck in it's not fair. We can figure out how to do something about it. It doesn't mean it's going to be fair, but we can empower you to make it more fair than it is now. Or you can stay here and be mad that it's not fair. So you have a choice. But I've come to, rather than saying, well, it can be fair. No, not really. The deck is stacked in our world in many areas. But accepting that empowers you to do as much as you can with it. And if you can't get past accepting that, then you stay in a victim mode. And it's really hard to help victims because they need to help themselves. I can teach them how to do it, but ultimately they need to accept the behavior that's going to empower them to a better outcome in their own lives. So yeah, I think not fair is good. And the same thing you see with physical ailments. Some people have physical ailments. Is it fair? No. Some people are born with perfect bodies, lucky for them. But doesn't mean we're stuck with
bodies can get mangled.
Yeah. But is it fair? No. Does it mean you can't make it better than it is? Absolutely not. You learn, you progress, you learn whatever you can about movement and nutrition or whatever needs to happen to improve your situation. I think the same applies to anything. In my world, the credit world, if you're looking at a job, it's about interacting with other people, the boss, a company, customers. You have all these interactions. Are they all going to be fair and go the way we want? No, life generally doesn't work like that. But what is our perception of how it's going? Do we look at that and say it's bad? Maybe if we have an expectation everything is always going to be perfect. If we have an expectation that we're going to be observant and that we can be then proactive in how we model our behavior based on what we observe, it's going to be better.
For sure.
So I think adopting that attitude of being observant and instead of just reacting as things happen, to be observant, and so we can understand what's going on and what the best course of action is huge, and that's very much embodies the mindset we learn in our practice.
Yeah, that's what we learned. One of the important principles is to learn how to be responsive instead of reactive. Mm-hmm. And speaking of financial world, you and I have had quite a few conversations over the course of the last year or two about another side of finances that people mostly are still learning about, and that is a different type of currencies called cryptocurrencies, which is much a figment of imagination, a dream that doesn't really have any tangible manifestation. It's pure energy, but it's valuable. Bitcoin nowadays is like $60,000 a one Bitcoin, and many other cryptocurrencies have been growing quite significantly in value as well. What is your perspective on those cryptocurrencies as even more distilled manifestation of energy in the context of money?
I don't know if it's more distilled than what we've been raised with here in the United States. I mean, it's been a long time. The dollar is only worth what somebody thinks it's worth. In God we trust, it says right on the paper there. Used to say exchangeable for gold, but now it's in God we trust. So it's really what our faith and belief system makes it worth. And I see cryptocurrencies as just expanding on that. And as people become aware of that option, that's another option to put your faith in. And that makes it a viable means for exchanging our energy. Because ultimately, that's what any currency is we exchange energy, ideas, or work. We get some of that energy in the form of that currency, and we get to keep it. And at a later date, we can exchange that energy token for somebody else's energy or thought process.
Well, that's why we call it currency, because it's the flow of energy.
Yep, it's a current. But I think the cryptocurrencies are really no different than what we've been raised with. It's just a matter of opening our awareness that it's a part of our world now. And we get to move forward with that. And we have options now in our currency that we never had before.
Fascinating. Well, there's definitely a lot to learn in that respect. And if any of our viewers would like to contact you, learn more from you, experience your services or your coaching, how would they be able to do that?
So I've got websites for financial services, which is consumercreditauditors.com. If anybody needs any help in those arenas, and another one for commercial credit, which is commercialcreditadvisors.com. love helping people in those areas too. So yeah, whatever anybody needs help with, if that's something that they feel that I'm qualified to help them with, I would love to be of assistance. Facebook is probably a great way to contact me. Derek Louw, DerekLouw. I'm pretty easy to find. I don't have a website for energy arts.
Well, we'll have to create a website for you for energy practices as well. I'm helping my apprentices get simple but elegant websites for them. I think you've got to have a website like that yourself. So I think
I'll do the beta testing. How's that?
Absolutely. All right. Well, I appreciate you sharing with us a lot of wonderful stories, experiences, and insights. And I look forward to celebrating more of these Tai Chi and Qigong events with you and all our viewers.
Absolutely. It has been a pleasure spending the time with you. Thank you, Louw.